Hey guys, it's Chris and I'm back with another movie review. That's right, it's been a while since I've done a movie review on this channel, but I went and saw The Invisible Man, and I think it's worthy of at least a conversation for a few minutes. Really good horror slash psychological thriller. I think the dark universe with movies like The Mummy and things like that needed a really good movie to kind of bring it back to life, so to speak, so I think this was definitely going to do it. So I'm not going to recap the movie. You've probably seen it if you clicked on this video, but of course I will be mentioning things that happen throughout, so this will contain spoilers. So anyway, this is mainly a psychological thriller, really good in that aspect because it keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time. Really has a big horror element to it as well, and it specifically has more of a paranormal experience type of vibe in the very beginning before it really gets going. But this movie really builds tension from the beginning. I mean, Elizabeth Moss really carried this movie, no doubt about it. You could really kind of empathize with her. Sometimes even though you were watching the movie, you even doubted her for a few minutes or for a few seconds, whatever, and then you really empathized and felt for her when she was going through this once you were absolutely sure that she was not, in fact, crazy. So she really carried this movie, did an excellent job here. The entire time they've had the tension built up from the very beginning. You felt that with the way they did the camera angles and camera shots and pans. For example, they may have a camera shot on the characters in that particular scene, and then as they were about to leave the room or whatever, the camera would pan over first before they even left the room, so you would get this empty shot there with nobody in it, and it makes you think that he's there the entire time and you're not really sure when he's there. Or, for example, when people were coming into a room to set up a scene, you would see the camera maybe start over here and then pan over to where they were going to be, and there was nothing there for a few seconds, and then the characters walked into the room to set up the scene. So they really did a good job with the camera work and made you feel the tension the entire time. Is he there? Where's he at? You're looking around the entire time in the background, trying to see if you can see signs of him. You know you're likely not going to see him, but you're looking for like his breath. You're looking for shit moving. You're looking for him to knock something off the shelf. It really felt like in a lot of scenes, especially early on, a ghost type haunting movie. So it really fell into the paranormal horror genre in those specific scenes. The movie is all about depicting abuse survivors and what they go through, trying to give you a better understanding of that. So this is one of those type of things where there is a good message in this movie for people to try to understand, as opposed to political nonsense and all that bullshit. But this was about abuse survivors. So you know she did a damn good job. If you're watching the movie yourself, you know exactly what's going on, and you start to question her sanity. So I thought it was fair that the movie dealt with abuse victims in that way. Specifically in her case, Adrian, the bad guy in this movie, the Invisible Man himself, along with his brother, of course. The movie literally opened up with his arm around her in the bed as if he's holding her physically, and then even after she left, she was in this psychological prison, still trapped in some way, and you really felt for her because, again, she did a really good job. I mean, after she left Adrian in the very beginning and got with her sister, helped her get to James, and she stayed with James for a while, she wouldn't even walk out of the house to get the mail. So that really shows you the kind of psychological bond she was in as well, and that's why at the end, when she finally takes care of Adrian herself with the other invisible suit, that's the only time you feel relief. And I think that's why they had that closing shot there of her looking up and finally smiling, because the rest of the time in the movie, she was absolutely trapped, whether that was physically or mentally, and that was the only thing that was going to free her. Now, the movie did have a couple problems, and ironically, it was about the same thing that the movie kind of revolved around, and that was camera technology. So you had some issues with certain scenes with security cameras where they should have played a bigger role, and the movie would have actually ended a lot sooner if they would have taken those into account. For example, the restaurant scene when she's talking to her sister, she's about to tell the sister of the invisible suit she had found at Adrian's house. Then he, of course, kills her and then puts the knife in her hands right there in a crowded restaurant. Well, you know that high-end restaurant likely had security cameras, so once the cops came and whatever, they look at security footage, they see a knife floating in the air and cuts her throat, and then it was thrown into her hand. They know she's innocent. They know they're looking for some kind of invisible suit, as she's been saying the entire time. So that was one instance of it. The next big issue with the security cameras was actually the psych ward itself. She goes to the psych ward, of course, after being arrested for the murder of her sister, but in the hospital itself, when she tried to figure out a way to trap Adrian and got him in the room, had a pen, ended up stabbing him with the pen several times as she threatened to kill herself, knowing that he would actually stop her because she was pregnant at that point. This obviously made his suit start to glitch out so she could see him sometimes, but then throughout the scene, as they're escaping throughout the hallways, you have all the different security officers and cops coming in, and they're all getting taken out by somebody. Obviously it's not her, But again, security cameras in the psych ward, which we know they have them all over the place, were not used to kind of show that she didn't do any of this. For example, if she would have just let him run out the door and leave because his suit was broken, they would have came in, arrested her, of course, again, put her in handcuffs, whatever, but take a look at the security footage of the hallway and what happened, which would naturally be done. They would see that these cops were getting thrown around and shot by somebody there in some type of suit, some kind of invisible man. So those type of things kind of bugged me a little bit as far as them not taking into account the security cameras throughout the movie, when in fact the entire movie was based off the premise of advanced camera technology. And the other small issue I had was, how did Adrian get around, or his brother for that matter, whenever he was using the suit as well? For example, when she did leave the house after the kind of ghost honing style scene and absolutely knew at that point that he had some kind of suit to be invisible, she then goes back to their old house. She clearly calls an Uber or a Lyft driver or whatever. He says specifically that it's going to be a long ride, gets there the next morning, and somehow Adrian gets there too to attack her again within their own house. So how did he know she was going there? Maybe he just guessed. I bet she's going back to the house or whatever to prove this, to find the other suit. But there's no way, assuming they drove straight there like it was shown, that he would have been able to catch up with her or whatever. And then again, how did he travel? What was he wearing underneath that suit? Did he have any regular clothes? Was he able to take it off and just take a taxi cab himself and get there in time? So things like that, and how he always knew exactly where she was going to be, like back at the restaurant scene as I mentioned. How would he know that she's going to meet her sister at that exact restaurant? I don't know. That's something you can kind of overlook, but just a minor little thing that kind of bugged me about, like, how did he always know where she was? But the great thing about this film and why it built so much tension and kept you hanging the whole time and made it a lot scarier as far as a horror film is that you did not see the bad guy. So for an example, in Friday the 13th, you see Jason Voorhees, or in Halloween, you see Michael Myers. And yes, they're scary figures or whatever because they're chasing you with axes and machetes and shit like that. But the point is, if you can see them, you know where to run to because you can see what you're running from. In this movie, you can't see him at all, so you don't know where to run to. So I think that's pretty damn good, and they did it really, really good again with the camera work and the angles. You were always wondering, is he in the damn room? So anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you see The Invisible Man? What did you think of it? I think they did a really good job with this movie. So anyway, guys, click right over here for the latest history and lore videos for Lord of the Rings. And click right over here on a video essay I did on why I believe fantasy is important in pop culture. Also, a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters and my executive Patreon SmokeScreen producers. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.